Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tuassir wa tammim bil khair. Lesson number 32, a very important lesson. And inshallah, in this lesson, what is more important is to know that the terminology that has been used in this lesson, that is more important than the lesson itself. Because if we know the vocab, if we know the terminology, then inshallah, the lesson will be interesting and it will be much easier. So what is the lesson about? It's about al-istithna'u, and it is called the exception. And we know that this is from number 10, istithna, yastathni, istithna'an. So istithna basically is masdar, and it means to accept. And what our focus will be today is on mustathna. And we know that mustathna is on the pattern of ismul maf'ul. Mustathnin will be ismul fa'il and mustathna will be ismul maf'ul. Then we have the verb tamma, yatimmu, to be complete. And this is a lazim verb, so that's why it has the meaning of to be complete. And the masdar is tamaman, and ismul fa'il will be tammun. So ismul fa'il is tammun, tamma, yatimmu, and our focus will be inshallah on mustathna. Then our focus will be on tammun. Then we have farraga, yufarrigu, tafrigan, to void, to make something empty. And ismul maf'ul will be mufarragun, something that is empty or something that has been made empty. Then we have ittasala, yattasilu, ittisalan, that means to connect. And we have muttasilun, ismul fa'il, something that is the connector basically. Muttasilun will be something that is connected or the connector. Then we have inqata, yanqati'u, inqita'an, and ismul fa'il will be munqati'un. And this is something that is disconnected, to be disconnected. And then the last one is aujaba, yujibu, ijaban, to obligate, to make something necessary. And ismul maf'ul will be mujabun. In grammar, mujabun means a sentence that is affirmative or sentence that is positive. That means it's not a question, it's not prohibition, and it's not a negation. It is just a simple positive sentence. So we have 6 things. We have mustathna, then we have tammun, mufarraghun, muttasilun, munqati'un, and mujabun. All right, so now let's get into these terminology. So the first one, as we can see over here, al-istithna, the exception. We have al-mustathna minhu, the one from which the exception is made, as we know minhu from, so from which the exception has been made. Then we have adatul istithna, the tool of exception. And then we have al-mustathna, that is the accepted. So the tool comes in the middle. The thing or the person or whatever comes before it is called al-mustathna minhu, and whatever comes after that will be al-mustathna. So the one from which something has been accepted, then we have the tool of exception, and then we have the accepted. Let's look at the example. Najahat tullabu kulluhum illa hamidan. All the students have passed except Hamid. One more thing we need to know, that this lesson is about what? It is about mansubat. And this is the last lesson in mansubat. So after illa, there are some possibilities that the mustathna or the accepted can be marfu as well. But inshallah, our focus will be on what? It will be on mansub, the noun that will be mansub after illa. However, we will learn about all the possibilities that can come after illa. Illa is the particle used as an instrument of exception. There are many other instruments of exception, including the following important ones. Ghayru and siwa, these two are noun. Ma'ada and ma'khala, these are verbs, fi'lan. Ghayru siwa, ma'ada, ma'khala, all of them have the same meaning as illa. So all of them mean what? They mean except. So the meaning is the same. However, these are different tools of exception that are used. However, the most common is illa, and then we have ghayru. So these are the two the ones that have been used a lot. In this lesson, inshallah, we will focus on illa, and when we do the exercises, then we will focus on ghayru and siwa and ma'ada and ma khala. Anwa'ul istithna, types of exception. There are 6 types of exception, as we can see over here. Tamun. So what is tamun? A sentence from which mustathna minhu is mentioned. For example, ja'a at-tullabu kulluhum illa hamidan. All the students came except Hamid. So tullab is mentioned, and from tullab we have talked about Hamid. So there are 2 things that we need to notice. Number 1, tullab are mentioned and Hamid is also a student. So that means they belong to the same category, right? Tullab and Hamid, they belong to the same category. So whenever in the sentence, whenever mustathna minhu and istithna, or the one that has been accepted, if they are the same category, then the sentence or the kalam is, or the speech is called tamun. It is called tamun. All the students came except Hamid. So we have students and we have Hamid. That's number 1. Number 2, mufarraghun. Mufarraghun is very easy. In this one, mustathna minhu is not mentioned. So mustathna minhu is not mentioned. Ma ja'a illa Hamidun. No one came except Hamid. So we know that we don't have anyone or any category over here from where we are taking Hamid out. So this is very, very easy, inshallah, and it will be, the i'rab is also very easy for this one. So what we need to focus is on tamun. Mufarraghun is the easiest, as we can see over here. And the only thing that we need to know that mustathna minhu is not mentioned. But when we talk about tamun, tamun has several categories. Tamun muttasilun. What does that mean? Tamun muttasilun. Mustathna is one of the same kind as mustathna minhu. So that means they are the same kind. For example, زرت البلاد الأوروبية كلها إلا اليونان. Now we know that bilad is the plural of baladun and it means country, and al-Yunan is also a country. So that means that mustathna and mustathna minhu are the same kind. Are you with me, right? So bilad, as we know, that is the plural of baladun, so countries, and Yunan is also country. So that means mustathna and mustathna minhu are of the same kind. So when they are of the same kind, that means that the speech or the kalam is muttasilun. Yes, please.
Yes, Ustad.
Yeah, okay. And if the mustathna is of a different kind, then we say that it is munqati'un. So same as muttasilun, as we know, ittasala yattasilu, ittisalan is to connect something, and munqati'un, as we know, something that is disconnected. So wasala duyufu illa imti'atahum. Mata'un, and the plural of mata'un is imti'atun. That means the luggage, as we know as well, or the. So when we say wasala duyufu illa amti'atahum, the guests have arrived except their luggage. So munqati'un will always be mansub. That's number 1. So we can see over here that whenever the kalam is munqati'un, it will always be mansub. But when the speech is tamun muttasilun, so there should be 3 conditions that should be fulfilled in this category. And if these 3 categories are fulfilled, then also the noun will be mansub after illa. So number 1, it should be tamun. Number 2, it should be muttasilun. And number 3, it should be mujabun. Mujabun means it should be affirmative. It should be affirmative, okay? The sentence is an affirmative sentence, or as I said in simple words, we can say it is a positive sentence. Yes, for example, iftah an-nawafidha illa al-akhirata. Open the windows except the last one. So when these 3 conditions are met, when the speech is tamun, number 2, it is muttasilun, and number 3, it is mujabun, then the noun will be mansub. The noun after illa will be mansub, I mean. So when mustathna minhu is munqati'un, or when the noun comes after illa and it is disconnected, it will be mansub. And when it is tamun, muttasilun, and mujabun, then the noun that comes after illa will also be mansub. Ghayru mujabin, the sentence will be negative, or it will be prohibitive or interrogative. And ghayru mujabin, most of the times it is marfu, as we can see over here. However, there will be two possibilities, that it can be marfu and it can also be mansub. But as of now, we will focus only on being marfu. Hal yarsubu ahadun illa al-kaslanu? Does anyone fail except the lazy? So now, because we have hal, so that's why we say that it is ghayru mujab. So mufarraghun and ghayru mujabun. As we can see that the connotation is negative as well. So that means they can be marfu. But if the speech is munqati'un, it is mansub. And if the speech is tammun, muttasilun, and mujabun, if the three conditions are met, then the noun after illa will also be mansub.
Mansub, yeah.
Okay. And we have the same, summary over here, as we can see. For example, irabul mustathna bi illa, so declension of exception with illa. When illa is used as the instrument of exception, the declension of mustathna depends on the type of exception as shown below. So first of all, we focus on tammun. What is tammun?
Where
What
the
kind of-
mustathna minhu is mentioned.
Excellent. When mustathna minhu
The
is
thing
mentioned, that means the thing
The
before
parent
illa, right?
thing. Yeah, the parent thing.
Yeah, before illa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's number one. And number two, it should be
Connected. It's of the
muttasilun.
same category, like students and
Excellent.
one of the students, something like
Okay, and then it should be mujabun,
affirmative. Or
affirmative. So after that, what will happen? The noun that
the
will
noun
come
can
after
be
illa
mansub.
will be mansub. Okay. Mufarraghun, as I said, is very, very easy. As
The
required
mustathna
by the
minhu will
sentence.
not be mentioned.
Exactly. When mustathna minhu is not mentioned. And inshallah, we will
That's
see that
right.
it's basically mufarraghun means that we have to follow the i'rab as if illa does not exist. So mufarraghun is the easiest one. And munqati'un, as we have discussed, that mustathna is of a different kind. So when mustathna is of a different kind, then the i'rab will also be mansub. However, if the kalam is ghayru mujab, then there are two possibilities. When the kalam is ghayru mujab, there are two possibilities. Number one, the noun that comes after, or the mustathna minhu, or mustathna, sorry, can be mansub, or it can be the same as mustathna minhu. So we don't need to bother about this as of now. As of now, our focus is on if the sentence is tammun, muttasilun, mujabun, then it will be mansub. And if the noun that has been accepted after illa, if it is munqati'un, it will also be mansub. Mufarraghun wa ghayru mujabun, inshallah, when we do the exercises, that will be much easier to understand. So as of now, we focus only on these two ideas. Is that clear?
Yes, Ustad.
Okay. Now let's look at the examples. For example, yaghfirullahu dhunuba kullaha illa shirka. Now, as we can see, al-dhunub, which is mustathna minhu, is mentioned.
Yeah, the
And
sins is mentioned, and one
yes,
of the sin
both
is
of them
shirk.
are mentioned. So this is tam, that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, it is muttasilun.
It's
Why it is
connected,
muttasilun?
yes.
Because dham,
Because one of the sins is
shirk is a kind of dham, it's a sin. So they are the same kind. And the sentence is
affirmative
affirmative. Yeah, it's mujabun because there is no hal, there is no la, and there is no hamzatul istifham. So that's why we can see that the noun after illa is mansub. So three things, three conditions have been met: tammun, muttasilun, and mujabun. So when we have three checks, that means the noun after illa will be mansub.
mansub.
Okay. Ma hadarat tullabu illa hamidan wa hamidun. Now we can see over here that this is ghayru mujab. This is what?
It's mas-
Ghayru mujab. Yeah.
negating, right?
Yeah,
Ustad?
so it's negative. Yes, exactly. So when it is ghayru mujab, then there are two possibilities, that the mustathna can be mansub and it can be marfu.
Or it can be
Marfu, okay. So at-talabu, which is mustathna minhu, is mentioned. So this is tamun, that's number one. It is muttasilun because Hamid is a student. So both mustathna minhu and mustathna are mentioned. However, kalam is ghayru mujab. So when it is ghayru mujab, the sentence is negative sentence. The sentence is negative, prohibitive, or interrogative. So in that category, there are two possibilities, that it can be mansub and it can be the same as mustathna minhu. So mustathna minhu, as we can see here, the one that has been exempted, so it is at-tullabu. So we can have hamidun, and also it is possible to say ma hadara at-tullabu illa
But
hamid.
what is the frequent this thing, Ustad? I think it is hamidan only, is it? Hamidun.
I believe, yeah, the marfu is more
Oh, frequent.
frequent.
Okay.
Yeah, and in the Quran also we will see inshallah the examples. We have the more examples of marfu other than the mansub.
Okay.
Now we have the example of munqati'un, kalam that or the speech that is munqati'un after illa. So we have a hadith over here, likulli da'in dawa'un illa al-mauta.
Mhm.
Now we can see that da'in, which is mustathna minhu, is mentioned. So kalam is tam. However,
It is not connected.
here it is not connected. Excellent. So mustathna is of a different kind. It is what? Munqati'un. And there is no connection between,
Because death is not a sickness, right?
yeah, so there is no connection between medicine and death, right?
Mm.
So they are two completely different things. So that's why death is not sickness. So that's why we can say that this is munqati'un. And we know that when the speech is munqati'un, or when we know that the one that has been exempted after illa is munqati'un, that means it will be mansub.
So
So when it is tam, muttasil and mujab, it is mansub. And when the kalam or the speech is munqati'un, when it is disconnected, it will also be mansub. All right. So what if the kalam is mufarraghun? Mufarraghun is the easiest to understand. When we say
where
ma
the
rasaba,
mustasna minhu is not mentioned, Ustad.
exactly, yeah. So, but what will be the i'rab, the ending? The ending will be ma rasaba illa bilalun. No one
Yes,
failed
we should
except
not
Bilal.
treat as if illa is there. So just hide the illa and just say complete the sentence.
Sentence. Ma
Yeah.
rasaba bilalun. Yani
Bilalun.
rasaba is fail and bilalun will be fa'il. Yeah.
Fine.
So when
Yeah.
you say ma rasaba bilalun, so here Bilal is the doer, so it will be marfu. If you say ma ra'aytu illa bilalan or ma ra'aytu bilalan, so when you say ra'aytu is fail plus fa'il and bilalan will be mansub. So the ending or the noun that comes after illa, it will depend on how it is used in the sentence. If it is used as fa'il,
How the
then it will
verb
be,
is, Ustad? How the verb, whether it is a lazim or it is a like that, Ustad?
yeah, the verb, it has to be just a
Because-
verb, or it has to be shibhu jumla, as we can see
Yeah.
jar majroor.
If we
Yeah,
say ra'aita, then bilalun should become bilalan, right?
bilalan, exactly. For example, if you want to say I didn't see anyone except Bilal, so you will say ma ra'aytu illa bilalan.
Mhm.
It's the same if you want to say I didn't see Bilal, so you will say ma ra'aytu bilalan, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to say I didn't see anyone except Bilal, so you will say ma ra'aytu illa bilalan.
So that's why it depends on the verb, whether it is a lazim verb or it is a
it lazim or mutaaddi, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, and
ma
also
ja'a illa bilalun, like that.
yeah, exactly. And we have to look for the amil, the doer. Like the amil will justify, or the amil will tell us. For example, if we have harf jar here, then
Mhm.
Bilal will be majroor. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it depends on the amil over here that comes before illa, and according to that, we will see the ending of the noun that comes after illa. So that's why it's called mufarraghun. It's empty, it's void, it does not have any function. It depends on whatever comes before illa, and the i'rab or the ending will come according to what comes before illa.
Mhm.
All right. So I
Yes,
hope
yes.
it's clear, inshallah. Fine. So this is a kind of summary over here. We have seen that
Many
we
of
have,
them are absent today. Actually, this is the most complicated one. And just because I've gone through this, it's easy for me. But for the new ones who are just listening, it is very complicated, Ustad, for
I
them.
believe so, but inshallah, after completing this lesson, inshallah, I'm really very sure that
Mhm.
if we do this with focus, this lesson will be the easiest of all to understand.
Yes, it
It
is the
needs a little
easiest
bit of,
because we're
yeah, but
solving this thing. But
but
first comers, just for the initial.
I can imagine even when I was doing it by myself, I
Yes.
was really like down, and I was like almost about to give up because I
Yeah.
thought like so many things are going over there. But
Me too, Ustad,
alhamdulillah,
but I had to like listen to that lesson 3 or 4 times, the recordings, and then I could understand. And
but alhamdulillah, now we have summarized everything before we start the lesson. So
Yeah.
inshallah, after this completing this lesson, when we do the text and when we do the exercises, inshallah, they will be much easier for us. So as I said in the beginning of the lesson, what is more important to understand the terminology, like al-mustathna, thing that is accepted, and al-mustathna minhu, thing from which the exception has been made, and adatul istithna is the tool of exception.
Yeah.
And we have seen that illa is particle, and siwa and ghayru, these are two nouns, and ma'ada and ma'khala, these are two verbs. And that's what we have seen today, that al-istithna can be tammun or mufarraghun. So when it is tamun, it is
And
muttasilun, and
muttasilun and mujabun.
yeah, so we go like this.
Mansub, yeah.
So it will be mansub. And similarly, when it is tamun and munqati'un, then it will be mansub. So these are
Yeah.
the two possibilities of mansub.
And if it is like mujabun, it can be mansub or marfu.
Marfu, and mufarraghun will take the i'rab of something that
The
comes before
sentence.
illa.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
alhamdulillah. So you see, and in the end, what we have over here, nasbun after illa. So there are two possibilities, because as I said, we are focusing on mansub or mansubat. And
Mhm.
that's why you will see that in all the books of Sarf or Nahaw, you will see, especially in the Sarf, that this will be the last lesson for mansubat. As we know that there al-mafa'ilu al-khamsatu, they are mansub. Similarly, tamyiz is mansub, hal is mansub, right?
Maful. Yes.
Ismu inna is mansub. Similarly, khabaru kana is mansub. And today we
Maful.
have seen,
Maful bihi and that one.
yeah, so, and today, inshallah, we can see that after illa, the possibility of mansub is that after illa, when the speech is tamun, muttasilun, and mujabun, then it will be mansub. For
Mansub.
example, najahat tullabu kulluhum illa hamidan. So for the first one, it is tamun because it's not negative, it's not ghayru mujab. Number two, tullab and hamid are connected, so it is muttasil. And number three, it is mujabun. We don't have any negation or prohibition, or there is no question over here. And if the noun is munqati'un, it is disconnected, or the exception or the one that has been accepted is disconnected, then it will also be mansub. For example, likulli da'in du'a'un illa al-mauta. So we know that now medicine and death, they are disconnected. It is tam, but it is munqati'un. So if it is
Yes.
tamun and munqati'un, it will be mansub. And when it is tamun, muttasilun, and mujabun, then it will be mansub. So today, inshallah, we will only naktafi bihada. We will only focus on the terminology today. And it's a request to all of you, whether you're attending the class or not, that don't proceed to the next lesson unless you understand the whole terminology. And once you can take a screenshot of this, you can take a printout, you can keep it in front of you. And when you have everything clear and do the lesson, inshallah, the lesson will be a piece of
Very
cake.
easy. Yeah.
Inshallah, ya Rab. Okay, so subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khairan.